Welcome to the Progression Health Podcast. I have Andrew Snow on, running coach, back on for part two. So, Andrew, do you want to introduce yourself to the listeners?
I'm a mindset and performance coach for runners, committed distance runners, anywhere from really the 5K to the marathon and then the ultra. I've got a lot of clients who do really well at the ultras and the 5K. Most of the people who I coach are the marathon. And I use a three-step, it's not really like three-step, it's a hierarchy of approach. So most runners think that they'll get better by running. And of course that's true, but it's not the only thing. And in fact, I claim that it's tertiary. There are things that are much more important than this. So we want to master our training and use periodization, and we want to use the modern science and what Olympic and world champions have used in the past. We don't want to copy their workouts, but we want to copy the philosophy and the structure that they're using. And we can do that to a high degree. And then above that is your lifestyle. What are you eating? How are you sleeping? Because this is going to dictate your performance even more than your training. Especially if you're already training and you're looking for, if you're not training at all and you go out and start running, okay, you'll get a performance benefit. But for a committed runner who's been around for a little bit and looking for the next level, you could train more, but then injury risk, burnout, plateau are likely if you just train more, harder intervals, longer tempo runs, longer long runs. And oftentimes, in fact, with the people who I work with, it's almost all the time that when we work on lifestyle and we work on diet, nutrition, that's really the big one. But of course, sleep is super important. Assuming you're getting enough sleep, we want to go into lifestyle. That's going to move the needle even more. And then the ultimate limiter of your performance and your training is your mindset. And mindset is kind of a term that doesn't really do justice. I like to call it sometimes emotion set, because the emotions that you live in your training are going to govern the long-term results that you get. Often as runners, we think like, go ahead and raise your hand. If you're a runner, raise your hand if you believe that when it comes to race day for your peak race, that you can give it hell and you can push really hard and grit it out. You probably do, but so do most committed runners. So mindset isn't about how hard you can push through the pain. That's kind of like once the hay is in the barn. It's who you're becoming in the process leading up to your race. How do you show up? How do you feel when you show up? Is it enriching your life? Because if we train for a season and then recover after and need to put time into our family and all these things we neglected, it wasn't really sustainable. So the way that you feel throughout your training, this is really what's going to govern your long-term success, whether you stick with it long-term, and how you respond when inevitable things come up like injury or some kind of setback, races being canceled. And we all saw that 4 years ago, and when those happen, what does it say to you? If you get injured, does it mean, I can't train and so I can't hit my goal? Or depending on how you take that, how you feel about it, you can cross train, you can work on your mindset, you can work on your nutrition, you can do strength training, you can do all kinds of, you can study the course, you can do all these other things. And so nothing will stop you, but that only comes from a place of joy, love, commitment, gratitude. If something happens and you feel like, woe is me and I'm a victim or anything like that, then the same situation can happen to two different runners. One is going to excel long-term and one is going to have these ups and these downs and these ups and these downs. So that's what I help people with. It's with their training, with their lifestyle. And then why are they doing this? So that it enriches their life so that they can stick with it long-term.
So, Andrew, are you trying to sort of begin with the end in mind? So it's like, we're trying to reverse engineer the goal as opposed to just like grinding, and kind of getting into this unsustainable place where I actually have been talking about this recently, and even myself, it's a common trap to fall into. So do you kind of have like a sort of long-term 1,000-foot view, end in mind type of approach?
Well, if you want to have anything in life, anything at all, be it with your finances, with your relationships, your spiritual development, or your running, you need to know two things. You need to know what you want. And you need to know accurately where you are without hyperbole making it worse than it is or better than it is. You need to know those two things. That's your starting point and your ending point. Otherwise, what are we training for? If you don't know and it's not good enough, I mean, hey, I'm not going to judge anybody here, but I'm going to tell you, if you really want to excel, it's not good enough to say the time on the clock that you want. Because the only reason anybody wants anything, including you want that sub 3-hour marathon, I think we talked about that last time, whatever it is, a sub 4-hour marathon, or to complete a certain race. The only reason you want that or anything in your life is because you'll think you'll feel a certain way when you get it. And so if we chase the time on the clock and you get it, but it cost you things along the way that weren't worth it, then who cares if you got the time on the clock? So I want you to get the times on the clock that you want. But if we just like, we don't even have to go that much deeper. If we go just one superficial level deeper, if you could get the times on the clock that you want, but you're injured, and that injury takes a really long time to recover from, or if you can get that time, but you hurt your health because you took performance enhancing drugs or whatever, or if you could get that time on the clock, but it cost you time with your family and finances at work, it's probably not what you want. So it's really not the time on the clock that you want. And it's the knee-jerk reaction. What do you want as a runner? And we compartmentalize ourselves as a runner. What do I want? And we name the time. But you're not a runner. You're a whole person. And so what is it that you want as a runner? And that's a different strategy that we'll use. And so you have to know what that is. And hardly anybody, including myself, this is difficult work to define what it is that you want in business or in contribution or in health, to really define it. More than just the superficial bullet points, but like, how are you going to feel when you have this? How does this enrich your life? What do you want? And if we don't know that, it's really hard to bridge a gap that is a big gap. You can get a little bit better. You can train a little bit harder, throw spaghetti at the wall and hope some of it sticks. Sure. But if you want a massive level up in your performance, you have to define it. And then the second part of that is knowing where you are. So is that long-term? It doesn't have to be. One of my runners, who's I mentioned in the introduction of my book here, his name's Brett, and he took off 55 minutes from his marathon in 9 weeks. It's like mic drop right there. And it wasn't like he was going from a 7-hour marathon to a 6:05. He got down to a 3:03. It's pretty good by most people's standards, and he's in his late 40s. But he took off a lot of time because he was super committed to this process. He did the training at a high level, that's for sure, but it wasn't going to get that much time off. So he did a holistic nutrition shift, and he had the mindset of, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And he was committed to it because he had the end in mind. He knew what he wanted, and he had a time frame for getting it. And when we have that, it's called Parkinson's law, that time will fill the amount of space that we give it in order to achieve. If you give yourself a day to clean up your house, it'll take a day. If you give yourself 20 minutes to clean up the house because that person is coming over, you'll get it done in 20 minutes. And so it's the same thing with your goals. So it doesn't have to be long-term, but it has to be meaningful, a meaningful step for you in your life. And that could be soon, or it could be 6 months or a year.
So you said something very interesting. So you're a whole person. I know just in my own experience, it's like, I'm a runner. This is the goal. I'm going for this. Kind of almost like blinders on in a way. So what are some mistakes that people make with that kind of, quote in mind, like maybe they neglect, I don't know, things or mistakes they make, and maybe just kind of overly characterizing themselves or identifying with the whole being a runner?
It doesn't work. I hear things, some of the objections I hear from people for why they haven't. So when I get on an initial call with someone who's interested in coaching, I'll ask them why they haven't yet achieved what they want. They're 30 years old, 40, 50 years old, and they want to experience whatever, a time on the clock, a health outcome. And I ask them, why don't you already have it? You've had enough time. Kelvin Kiptum, God rest his soul, he's gone. Yes. What was he, 24? And he set his world record when he was 23 or maybe 24. So if we're 30 or 40, we've had enough time. We've had enough time to become a great runner. Prefontaine, he died at 24 as well. Kipchoge, he's perhaps towards, he's not at the end, but he's towards the latter part of his career. You can do a lot. So if you ask yourself, why haven't I done it already? Here's the answer. If you could have, you would have. And that's a tough pill to swallow because we like to think, oh, but I just haven't tried yet. Can you write a book? Can you start a business? Can you make $1 million? Can you run whatever time on the marathon? No, because if you could have, by definition, you would have. If you could have, it means you have the tools to be able to do it. And the tools don't necessarily mean the right training shoe and the right workouts. It means you're the kind of person who has that. You take a millionaire and take away all their money, it's not going to be long before they're a millionaire again, for the most part. Depends on how they got it. Because they have the habits, they have the mindset, they know the structure, they have the discipline, whatever it is, they have the investment knowledge, they have the knowledge, and they're the kind of person who is a millionaire. So take away the money, they're still a millionaire. They'll have it again pretty soon. So you take an elite runner, and if they're injured or something and take a long time off, it doesn't matter. They are an elite runner. They know what it takes, and it'll take them no time to get back there. So it doesn't work if you're just a runner, then, and you have a goal time that you don't have yet. You would have got it if you were the kind of person who naturally had it. So it's not the training that needs to change. The training is out there. You know that you could have run more miles. You know that you could have done a longer season. You know that you could have done more specificity. You know that you could have, but the fact is that thus far you haven't. And so just telling someone, do these workouts, do this thing, it's like they already know that. And some people, granted, some people don't if they're new to running, but most runners, they do some studying. They know at least enough to get them probably further than where they are if they did it. So it's about changing how they're showing up. So that comes down to your whole person, not just as a runner. Why are you not showing up? Some of the common objections are, I don't have time because people work and have families. Okay, I can name a bunch of Olympians who have multiple kids and they work full time for Nike or whatever it is, and they still do it. You know, Elon Musk, that guy's really busy. I believe he schedules his days in 3-minute blocks, and he's CEO of like 4 companies now. And he has the same 24 hours in a day as we do. Beyonce has the same 24 hours in a day as we do, but that girl kills it and she does it. So we all have the same 24 hours a day. It's about putting more of yourself into it. And that doesn't mean try harder. It doesn't mean like go harder. It means, it doesn't even mean go smarter. What it means is know what your priorities are. And if running is the top priority, it's probably not. Because probably family and health and kids or whatever. Those are probably priority. But if running is number one priority, then you know to say no to the other things that eat up your time that rob you of that. Since that's probably not the case, running is probably a little bit lower down on the hierarchy. It's probably important to you, but it's maybe 3rd or 4th or 5th. And then what I would suggest to people is that don't be hard on yourself if you don't have the time to train 100 miles a week because you're a business owner and you have 4 kids and 3 dogs and 2 wives. Then if you need to put the time into that, that's what you choose. That's the lifestyle that enriches you. And if it means you can only run 60 miles a week, that's just what it is, because that's your life. So if we try to rob that, if we don't look at the whole person and we say, just a runner, why aren't you running more? And they run more and it robs them of the thing that's more of a priority, that's not going to be sustainable. And so it won't work because they'll lose too much and they won't like who they're becoming and it won't work. You have to love who you're becoming. And there's a saying that one of my mentors says that progress equals happiness. It doesn't matter if you hit the goal. It matters, it feels good when you progress towards it, right? So if you're a 3:30 marathoner and you want to run a sub 3 and you run a 3:10 at your next marathon, if that doesn't feel good, we've made a gross error. Because I understand you didn't get the 3, but you've made such progress towards it. Just keep going. And so progress equals happiness. And it's not progress if it's in one area in isolation of the rest of our life, because that could be a net like detriment. And that doesn't feel good. I would not say that progress equals happy. You're not going to be happy if you neglect your family and your finances and your health to get the time on the clock. So it's got to be a package deal.
So I've listened to Ryan Holiday a little bit, and a quote he likes is more fatty. It's like, I'm not big on, I could be completely wrong, but it's something along the lines of love your fate. So that sounds very similar to what you're saying.
Love your what? Your fate?
Your fate, yeah. Love one's fate or love your fate. So it's like,
okay,
you can't run 100 miles a week, but you can do 60 and love that, you know?
And you probably could run 100 miles a week because it's a lot of running, but it's not so much that we're training like, Rocky Balboa, where we go out and we just spend all of our time and all of our energy. I've got a runner right now who's in his 50s. His name's Brian. Hey, Brian. And he's running 180 miles per week. But what's crazy is that he's an on-call emergency surgeon. And he works a lot and he works crazy hours. But he found time. Granted, what he does is work, sleep, eat, and run. That's what he does. Because he knows his priorities. He has big goals for himself. He wanted to make world championships in the 100-mile distance for his age group, and he just did. He just won a last man standing race. We got world championships in August. So he has a big goal, and even a really busy guy. He has a family. He has a wife. He works a heck of a lot. Not at home. He's got to go into the hospital, and he still has time to run 180 miles a week. There is time. It doesn't mean one has to do that. But if we assess our life, like if we know those priorities, then everything that doesn't feed those priorities, where if our time goes to a place that doesn't feed those, then that is an opportunity to change. And we all do it, the social media scrolling, the TV watching, the phone calls, or the complaining, the derping, whatever it is. We waste a lot of time. I do as well. I try to minimize that, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. But to the degree that you can do that, that is like a change in yourself, in your habits, not a change in your running. You do have the time to run more and sleep more, because where there's a will, there's a way. And if really your lifestyle does not allow for it, then that's also okay, because you're living the life that you choose. You just know your priorities, and then do the best that you can to not feed things that are, I wish I could give you a visual here. Probably could on a piece of paper, but
like a pie chart of where you're putting your time.
Yeah, not so much a pie chart, but let's actually do this. Why not? It'll be simple.
For anyone listening, Andrew's getting a piece of paper and a pen to.
I'm going to just draw a square like this. It's a square that's divided into 4 squares. Okay. So we have things that are important in our lives. So I'm putting important here. And we have things that are urgent. So I'm going to put urgent here. So we can have important or not important. We can have urgent and not urgent. So the things that will move your life forward are doing the things that are important and urgent. Your house is burning down. That's important and it's urgent. You better take care of that. Okay, you got to do the important and urgent things. But then a lot of us fail to do the things that are important but not urgent, like invest for retirement, do the long-term project, work on our bodies long-term and our health. Those are important, but they're not urgent. You're not going to die of a heart attack tomorrow, probably, if you eat a pizza today. But you eat the pizza every single day for 50 years, and yeah, maybe. So instead of working on the things that are important but not urgent, we tend to focus on the things that are not important but urgent. Like the phone makes a noise. Uh-oh, which app is that? And we go look. Or there's a weed in my garden. And we spend the time doing that. So these things, they're not terribly important, but they seem urgent. And to the degree that to which a person can exchange the things that are not important but urgent for the things that are important but not urgent, that is tough to do, because I don't know what it is, but like when your phone dings or you see a bug on the wall, you got to catch the bug. It's like these things aren't that important, but for some reason they're urgent and we have to take care of them. We think we do, but we really don't. And something that'll enrich your life in any area of your life long-term is to the degree to which you can attend to the things that are important, but not, because the things that are important but not urgent, guess what? They will over time become urgent. If taking care of your health, important, not really urgent, until you have cancer or you're dying or you need an operation. And then it's really urgent and you have to take care of it. And those things don't really come up. To the degree to which you take care of the important and not urgent things means that load of important and urgent things, it gets less and less and less and less and less and less and less. And that'll really shape the quality of your life.
So is this kind of reflection that you're referring to, like, almost like metacognition, thinking about, how runners are approaching their running and their intentions?
Yeah.
Is this something that you regularly work on with clients? Like, when you have conversations, is it constantly about how are we showing up? How could we, take care of the things that lead to the run more effectively?
Right. Yeah. Planning a little bit more long-term. So with your training, what's the thing? If you have a marathon coming up, the thing that's important and urgent is doing the marathon pace runs, doing the big interval runs, upping your mileage. But it's too late. Now it's urgent because you haven't been doing that for 6 months or a year or 10 years. You haven't run 100 miles a week for 10 years. So you try to up your mileage leading up to the marathon, and then you might burn out or get injured, and then you have to taper, and it's not the best strategy. So I definitely work with my runners on building a foundation and really making the most of your base training. And the truth is that off of proper base training, it depends who you are, right? But virtually everybody who hasn't really peaked their fitness and become like an Olympian or something, off of just base training, you are going to set PRs in many distances that aren't specific distances. One of my clients wrote to me yesterday. He just ran a 10-mile race this past weekend, and he's training for a trail half marathon. So he did He did a 10K a few weeks ago. He did a 10-mile, and then he's got the half marathon. And he PR'd in that 10K, lifetime PR. And then he PR'd in the 10 mile as well. But he wasn't even training for them. He's training long term. But because he has enough time, we've been working together, I don't know, 6 months or so at this point. Because he's putting the time into base training, he gets those results. You just got to be patient. We're not going to when I tell that story about Brett, who took 55 minutes off in 9 weeks, it's just a fun story. It's like, it shows what you can do, but I don't encourage people to really do that because injury risk goes high. It's like you have to take much more massive action. If we slow drip this, but we build a foundation without prematurely doing the tempo run, the interval runs, the hard marathon pace runs, we don't want to prematurely do those. We want to build a foundation, and that alone will get you, if you do it long enough. So a 12-week training plan is probably not long enough. If you do that long enough, you will get the results you want based off of just that. And then the beautiful thing is that if you build that foundation, you can come back and you can sharpen it up with your support and your specific training, and you can really take it to the next level. You'll already be in PR shape, and then you skyrocket your specificity and fitness, and that's what creates a breakthrough in your performance.
Yeah, I love that idea of setting a stable foundation and base before going for that bigger goal like the marathon. And, speaking of long runs, so I am up in my mileage, and I had my second long run, like second 2 hour long run just this past weekend. And I kind of concluded on reflection that I didn't have the right intention going into it, because it was meant to be like zone 2, just this is one of your first long runs for the marathon build. Let's just get it done and keep it, under zone 2, but that plan kind of just, I don't know where exactly, this is where we'll get into it, but somewhere in the build-up, that plan got thrown out the window. The run started going, and I was feeling myself, and I was like, this is, a good day to push, with no sort of prior contemplation around, I'm going to go hard today. And what was meant to be a full 2 hour zone 2 turned into the first 30 minutes of the 2 hours was zone 2, then zone 3, zone 4 for a while, and then I just kind of little cool down at the end, back down to zone 2. So I concluded my intentions were off, my preparation was off. Do you have any kind of experience with this about how to keep the goal, keep the long-term goal, the goal, even though, I think it was an experience as well, but just how to keep the long-term goal, the goal.
It's okay that you did that, by the way. How do you feel? You probably feel like a badass that you accelerated more and more over 2 hours.
Yeah, in the moment, yeah. And then on reflection, speaking with my coach, it was kind of just like, that was, it was a tough run, but it wasn't specific. It wasn't specific to what the base that you mentioned already. It wasn't base building,
Right. Yeah. So there's this mindset, I call it humility. And the best illustration of this, there's two. Okay. So the best illustration is pacing. Most runners in a marathon, do they go out too fast or too slow? Or right on?
Fast.
What do you think?
Too fast. Everybody.
Too fast. Virtually
any
everybody.
race.
Any race. Virtually everybody. Elite runners, no. But more than 80%.
Kiptoon was a pro at negative splitting.
He negative split. Yeah, but he's a world record holder. So the elites don't do this. The elites even split or negative split. Or if they positive split, it's a very small positive split. But these big positive splits, that's what everybody else does. And so I call it humility. It takes humility at the beginning of a race. Call it a marathon, 5K, whatever, it doesn't matter. At the first portion of your race, the first third of whatever your race is, it probably feels easy. If you paced it evenly, if you go out too fast, it doesn't feel easy. If you pace it evenly, which is the way to run fast, then it feels by definition easy through halfway, 2/3. It'll get hard later and you'll drop down, but it'll start easy. So if you start even easier so that you can negative split, it's so flippin' easy that our ego can't take it. We see people up ahead of us that we know we could be beating. We see the pacer with the 4 hour marathon sign, and we know we want to run a 3:45, but that 4 hour pacer with the sign is like a quarter mile ahead of us, and it gets to our ego. I need to be up there. I should be up there. And so we do. So we can also take that humility and bring it into our training. And most runners don't do this. The average runner who's not just a beginner, but the average runner who's been at it for a while, their training is pretty predictable. I can tell you, they likely are doing 3 runs per week that are quality, and then either they don't run the other days or they run easy the other days. And they're going to do a tempo run, an interval run, and a long run. And they're just going to progress it until race day. That's pretty common, right? And it makes sense and it works. But it doesn't work long term, and it doesn't work for a breakthrough in your performance. The best you can hope for with that is an incremental improvement if you don't get injured or burnt out or plateau. And it'll work 6 weeks, 12 weeks, and then good luck. You're not just going to keep doing faster intervals forever. At some point, something's going to happen. So it takes humility to not do those workouts and to actually do base training. Because base training is boring. I don't want to just run easy. Okay, that's not what base training is. Base training is also a lot of strides and hill sprints and strength training and nutritional shifts and lifestyle shifts. And that takes humility because we want to go out and kind of like feel the wind in our hair. And you can, but you run with modulation. So if your runs are like very similar, you go out for that 5-mile run and it's at a similar pace at the beginning as it was at the end every day, then it's not modulating. It's just kind of like here. So if you run very easy and then you throw in a stride and then very easy and then throw in a stride and then very easy and a stride, you get a lot of neuromuscular speed development and you get a lot of aerobic development. Your injury risk goes way down. It's very sustainable. You're never like huffing and puffing and burning out. So you can do it long term and you can build the volume of easy running and you can build the volume of strides and you can get super fit. And it only took a little bit of humility because it's not even true that we have to just run easy and dog it all the time. You can run easy. So if you go for a 5-mile run at whatever pace that's like moderate, if you just run it easy, you don't feel like you're working as hard. Fine. Run easy, but run longer. Run 8 miles, but easy. Slow the pace down. And if you run long enough, you're still working hard. Fine. Run 25 miles a day, easy. It's not so easy anymore, is it? So it's only easy. It's only too easy at the beginning. But you build up your volume and you can make your training as hard as you want, but we do it in ways that don't injure you. It's the same thing in the marathon. Can you see that? Like pacing early in the marathon is so stupid easy. We don't want to do it. We want to go faster. Yeah, but it gets harder later. Same thing. You build up your volume. If the pace, slow the pace down. And if it's too slow, just run more volume or add in more strides. A ratio of like 2 to 1, like 2 strides per mile. That's a lot of strides. And it's not so easy anymore. So you can still like give it hell, but we give it hell mindfully and build up that foundation.
Yeah, it's like I have an itch that is like this kind of excitement itch, so
Exactly.
doing a zone 2 run for 2 hours, I'm just like, that does not kind of ignite the fire sort of in me, it doesn't feel elite. And I'm like, nah, it's got to be, a real challenge.
Got to run hard all the time.
Gotta run. Yeah, more is better, harder is better. And
right.
Yeah, that idea of throwing in some strides is so useful. It's so simple, but that would kind of give me that, little bit of excitement where, okay, I'm going fast now.
Yeah. Or you could run longer. A lot of times someone will say to me that one of their goals is they want to see their pace come down. I'm like, that doesn't make, if you want your pace to be faster, just run shorter. Done. Get out of here. No coaching needed. But if someone runs their daily runs or a 10-minute pace and they're like, I'm just stuck at this 10-minute pace, I want to run faster. Maybe. Would it also be an improvement if you ran longer? What if you kept it at 10-minute pace, but you tripled your mileage? Maybe it's double your mileage, whatever it is. Is that also a progress? Are you going to be more fit for your race if you just ran 3 times as much, even at that easy volume? We don't do just that. Of course, we add in the strides and hill sprints as well. But it's not just about like chopping it down. Because if you're running 10-minute miles and you get more and more and more fit, and instead of running more volume, you just run 950 miles and then 945s. You're always running in that medium yellow zone. You're never truly running easy and you're never truly developing speed. It's always right in the middle. And you accumulate a lot of volume there. That's not what elites do. In fact, if you were to graph this, let's do this again.
Pen and paper's coming out again.
Very, very simple graph. This will take like 2 seconds. So if you look at the training of the average runner, it's going to look, okay. So it's going to look like this. Easy, E for easy, H for hard. Okay. Their training is going to look like this. They have some easy running, a lot of medium running, very little hard running. But if you look at elite runners, it's the absolute inverse. Instead of an arc like that, it's a U like this. And elite runners, they train a lot of volume, very easy, very little in the middle, and then a lot of speed development and specificity as they get close to their race. And when you visualize it like this, you can see that they're polar opposites. They're literally inverses of each other between how the average runner trains and how an elite runner trains. So slow it down, but build up a lot of volume. That's what elites do, right? An elite 5K runner even is running at least 80, if not 90 or 120 or 130 miles a week. An elite marathoner, upwards of that, right? It's a lot of volume and a lot of it's easy, but they don't neglect speed and they do a lot of strides. Kenenisa Bekele leading into the last Olympics, which they didn't select him for the team, which seemed insane, but he didn't know that at the time. This was like before the Olympics were rescheduled a year later. Leading into what would have been 2020 Olympics, he was doing, it was about 140 miles per week. A lot of that was very easy. He'd often run with the women's team and he'd often be doing his warm-ups around 10-minute pace. Now, this guy can hold like a 4:30 something for a marathon, and he's running more than double that pace. But then he also got on the track every other day and he did 30 100-meter strides at 4-minute mile pace, 15 seconds for 100 meters. That's a lot. 2 miles worth of 4-minute mile pace running every other day on top of 140 miles easy per week. And Bekele, arguably the greatest of all time, certainly a top 3 or 4 by like any way that you measure it. This guy is a badass. He's still going strong. World record in the Masters Marathon just recently. So that's what he did. Lots of easy, lots of core speed development until he gets closer to the race. He doesn't train like that up till race day. That's base training. But he masters base training. And then as the race gets closer, he does big honking workouts that would kick. I mean, good luck keeping up with that guy for an actual marathon workout. It boggles the mind. I mean, some of these elite guys, they're doing 20. In my book here, I've got a couple of examples of the 2 guys who broke the world record at Boston in 2011. I think it was 2011. Yeah. And Abel Karui and Moses Mosop. And we got their training and we look at it. And some of their big workouts, they're really big. 25 miles at 10 seconds slower than marathon pace. What? As a training run? They basically race a marathon in training by themselves, with their coach on the bike next to them. And they do these monster
roads in Kenya or Eastern.
Yeah. Yeah. Or they do these monster interval runs that are like 10K twice in the morning, take a break, 10K twice in the evening. What? 24 miles worth of faster than marathon pace running in a single day. And then they take 9 days of recovery after. They still run doubles, but it's all easy, baby. Easy. So it's base training, like Bekele, like we just talked about, and then monster workouts. And there's an in-between phase there. I call that support training to bridge the gap. But that's essentially what we're doing. Build up volume aerobically with your aerobic development, build up volume neuromuscularly. Now you're strong and you have an engine. Now we do some race preparation. Then we do some big monster workouts, just a handful of them. You don't have to do them twice a week, every week for whatever. Just a handful, 3 to 6 like monster workouts over your last month and a half of training. Boom. And that moves the needle.
So you want to train with intention, with purpose, but also like, okay, this workout is easy or this workout's hard, but then you also want to be able to train like the individual workout easy or hard, but then across a week, across a month, you want to be able to train consistently. Like you want to be able to adhere to the workout. So it's like, it's not too easy that it's boring and it's not too hard that you're fatigued and you can't, because you're kind of saying like, even these elites who are able to do the 2 10K workouts in the same day, if they're training for 9 days, that means there's a lot of sustainability built in, Oh,
yes. Yeah. And building up your volume before doing those workouts allows you to repeat that workout or not die because of it. If you or I tried to go do one of those workouts, even if we made it our appropriate paces, so not even running their paces, just our paces, but for that workout, it's probably such a high volume that it's going to be really hard to recover after. But that's one of the beautiful things about building a base is if you take a runner who's running 30, 35 miles a week and we can keep them healthy and get them to, let's just pick a high number. If we can get them to run 70 miles per week, we would take our time to get there. But just as a thought experiment, if we could do that, now when they go to do those workouts, the same workout, they'll recover from it better. because they're a stronger runner. They have a better aerobic engine. They have more mitochondria to be able to make more energy and feed the cells for recovery. So building up a base allows you to be able to do bigger workouts. So for example, this isn't like a steadfast rule, but just as a thought experiment. If we did 20% of our, so 80-20 principle, right? If you were to be in your peak training and you did 20% of your running really specific or hard and 80% easy, you're probably not going to burn yourself out because it's only 20%. But how do we make that 20%? Maybe 20% is only 10 miles a week or 5 miles a week or 20, like it depends on your volume. So by upping the volume, we can still keep that ratio so that we don't get hurt. But that the 20% becomes 10 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles, 40 miles. It's bigger, the amount of work you can do simply because you built up the volume. So the volume does not equal your performance, but volume of running sets the foundation. That's why we call it base or foundational training, to be able to do workouts that really do move the needle later.
The skill you're talking about is my weakness, is being patient. You're talking about like progressively building up, you know, like it's the 5 miles, that's the hard 20%, or yeah. It's
Yep.
how do we work on patience? How do we get more patient when we're running and almost like just be happy and content with, you know, ticking it off week on week, you know? Not saying
You're asking me to tell you how to be happy?
How do
Progress equals happiness. So the first thing that you said is it's my weakness. So can't help you because that's a statement of fact. It's not true, but it's a belief that you have. So if it's your weakness, it's your weakness. What are you going to do? What if it weren't your weakness? What if it used to be your weakness? What if you're now more educated or intelligent or committed to doing things in a new way? What if you identify instead of having that be a weakness? What if you maybe it has been in the past. What if you just change the way that you talk to yourself about it? I now know better because I've repeated the same mistake many times in the past. I now have more information and I'm going to kill this next season because I know what I'm doing even better now. And so I'm going to, slow it down and take a longer time for my training cycle, whatever it is. And you could probably get behind that. But when you say it's my weakness, I know you didn't like plan to say that. It's just kind of like a subconscious way. You're communicating
Freudian
something to you, but the words that come out, they say what you believe. So do you believe that it's your weakness, or could it be true that it used to be your weakness, but you're even better than you've ever been now? Could that be true?
When my training isn't effective, it's my weakness, but it's not always my weakness. Like there's definitely been great
Wait a
weeks
second.
and months.
You're going to ruin this whole thing. You just said it was your weakness, and now you said it's not always my weakness. Aha, progress. But you see, like seriously, which one is true? It's not always been your weakness, but that's a step towards moving towards being the person who you're striving to be.
Sometimes I identify with, oh yeah, I'm impatient and I like to get things done. But if I take a step back, 1,000-foot view, I'm like, I don't want to be an impatient person. I want to be calm, have serenity, you know, and just kind of have more faith that doing that base building, doing the right training, I know it will result in getting me progress.
Okay. So the word you used there was faith. Have more faith. What would you need to have more faith in?
That's a tough question.
Yeah, take a second. But this is important. Like this is where the changes starts.
Faith in the process, you know, like faith in showing up, adherence to a plan, faith in getting, you know, the right sleep, right nutrition, faith in doing my gym, faith in the work that's being done, because the work is being done, and I am a hard worker. I always work hard, so I don't even need to like have this impatient, like forceful approach. If I'm calm, if I take a step back and have more faith, it'll result in better progress because I won't be forcing an outcome. I won't be forcing a result.
Well said, Ross. Stop forcing. Can you think of another area of your life? Let's take running just on the back burner for a second. Let's say that you're single and there's a pretty girl and you want to date her. Can you force your way into the relationship with her, or does that repel her?
Yeah, if I was advising someone else, I'd be like, yeah, abandon that plan of forcing.
Better to attract her than force her. It's like you go to jail for forcing. This is jail time here. So it doesn't work there. How about with sales? You have a program, you have a coaching business, you have a market that sells candy bars, and you force it.
Yeah,
Are people
I
going to
can think
buy?
of a company that forces sales. Like they'll call me, and I'm like repelled by that. Yeah, I don't like forcing.
Right. How about health? Can you force your health? Oh, I've got cancer. I'm going to get it out. And actually, people do that, right? Because they'll use chemo and radiation. They're trying to like force it out. Okay. What about a longer term approach of an entire life, 5, 6, 7, 8 decades of even healthier choices? It's a completely different paradigm, but that's not force. So you can take this same action. Here's the key. This is mindset. I said at the beginning of this, I said mindset, I like to call emotion set, because you can take the same action and someone looking at you from the outside would say, oh, Ross just did that 5 mile workout at 7:30 pace. Yep. And one of those ways you could force yourself to do it. So you don't want to go out and run. You're tired, whatever. You force yourself to do it. And you did 5 miles at 7:30 pace. An alternative could be you still run 5 miles at 7:30 pace, but instead of forcing it, let's pick a different emotion. You joyfully do it. You choose to do it. You delight in doing it. It's not force. It's still the same action, but the experience that you have, one of them is going to burn you out and maybe make you angry and impatient, and you come home. One of them is by choice. It feels good. It's kind of an upwards energy. One of them feels kind of light. I get to go run. I love running. It's such a great day. I'm going to do 5 miles. Some people can't even run 5 feet. Some people are paralyzed. Some people are dead. How lucky am I to be able to run? Oh my God. 5 miles at 7:30. I used to not be able to run 3 miles at 10-minute pace. Look how much I've progressed. Gratitude, focusing on, and those emotions. And it sounds like, oh, gratitude. I'll just go out and do the workout. I didn't say don't do the workout. Same run, 5 miles, 7:30 pace. No change to the run. One of them done in what I just described there. One of them done, I have to run. I don't want to run, but I'm a badass who forces it because I have these goals, and that's same run, much different experience. One of those runners will still be here a year from now or 10 years from now. One of them, probably not. And even if they are, they're gonna train really hard and then need to recover, and then really hard and need to recover. And these like big seasons off for inconsistency in their training, it's not going to lead to a breakthrough in performance. Find an elite runner who's using force like that, and you might actually see it with like younger middle distance runners sometimes. Honestly, like Jakob Ingebrigtsen comes to mind. I don't know the guy. He's a fantastic runner. Oh my God, he kicked my butt across the board. His mind seems to be like more in aggression. I don't know the guy. He also has like a lot of publicity and like fame around him. It's maybe that's not even fair to say.
Andrew, would that
But
be in contrast to Kipchoge's mindset?
absolutely. Put Kipchoge and Jakob Ingebrigtsen together, like in your mind together. They seem to be experiencing different emotions. Okay, fair enough, because Ingebrigtsen is fast. We'll see. We'll see what his career pans out in 10 years, 20 years. I don't know. Probably pretty well. But there's just a difference. Kipchoge has, Ingebrigtsen, he actually does have a world record now, but he doesn't have a world record in the outdoor 1500 or the 5000, which are, I think, probably the most important races. I don't know. He does have a world record, to be fair. But Kipchoge, multiple world records, multiple Olympic gold medals, huge longevity in the career. I mean, he was running in the 90s, world class on the track, sub 2 hour marathon. I mean, golly gee. And Kipchoge, when he's at the end of his race, he's smiling. He's hurting, but he's smiling. He crosses the finish line. He brought his wife to the Ineos Breaking 2 project. His wife had never been to one of his races. He brought her there because he's going to do this big thing, and he's running for more than himself. Kipchoge, what was the theme of that race? Do you remember?
I do not. I do not.
It was no human is limited.
I
Kipchoge came
remember
up with
that.
that, and he wasn't running for himself. He doesn't get a world record. It doesn't count. He did it as an exhibition to show that no human is limited. And he brought his wife, who had never been to one of his marathons, brought his wife there because it gave him like joy to be able to do this and present that to his family and to the world. And he crosses the finish line and he hugs his coach and he celebrates with his family and he's full of smiles. And we look at some other athletes, normally in other sports, but a little bit in track and field now, where it's more like trash talk and like push really hard and hey, it can work, but which life do you want to live? It can work. I believe it's less likely to work because you're less likely to be here long term. But even if it did work, even if it worked and you got the time on the clock, did you like the life that you lived? I don't know.
So you have to have an approach that on a daily basis you enjoy, or you can, I don't want to say live with, sounds a bit extreme, but yeah, you have to set up a process that you enjoy, a mindset that you enjoy, not this kind of white knuckling approach.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to, and don't be hard on yourself. If you don't enjoy it every single day, that's fine. But there should be consistent enjoyment. So this comes down to a rule for yourself. So we have values, and maybe value would be being consistent, or a value could be enjoying my running. Now, if you embrace that as a value and it wasn't there before, and now you embrace enjoying my running, it's probably a positive thing in your life. But then you want to make, you don't want to be hard on yourself, because enjoy my running is black or white. I enjoyed it or I didn't. And if you didn't, then it feels bad because it's like, I should be enjoying it and I just can't, blah. So we want to be easy on ourselves and have rules for ourselves. I even suggest doing a workshop and writing these down. I could show you some examples here if we have time, but you might say, I enjoy my running as long as I consistently, not always, consistently make healthy choices, progress my mileage, take care of my body, and make sure to make my running more than just about myself. Okay, now I fail at enjoying my running only if I consistently fail to realize the truth that not every moment of life is designed to be happy, that I am human, and that only if I fail to remember that my job is not to be perfect, it's to just make progress. Okay, now you have a rule for yourself about it makes it easy to feel like you're enjoying. And if you didn't enjoy it, you're not hard on yourself, because it's only failure if you consistently failed to make any progress whatsoever over a long time while hurting everybody. And right, we can make these rules for ourselves and actually write them down so that it's not so black or white. Did I enjoy my run today? Well, not really. I kind of had heartburn and I was tired. But you have a rule for yourself. As long as I take consistent action, that's one of them. Well, I did that. Okay, long term, I'm going to enjoy who I become because I took that consistent action. And on a given day, it's more of a spectrum, because you don't have to have the thing that you want or not. All you need to do is move towards the thing that you want. And anywhere in that in between is okay. Like that gray area is all okay as long as you move towards it. So if your diet really sucks, you don't have to overhaul your entire diet. Maybe you should, but as long as you just add in a salad every now and then, consistently, feel better. That's progress. You're still fat, you're still unhealthy, but it's getting better. You drink 5 cups of water a day or whatever, and you weren't before. You were drinking 5 beers before. Well, that's progress. You're not you're not healthy, but you're healthier. You move towards it. So we can make rules for ourselves to just feel like we're progressing.
That reminds me. So I've listened a lot to Jordan Peterson, psychologist, and he talks about it's not, he says humans are like aiming creatures. We have eyes to aim at a point. And he says that, and I'm sure he gets this from somewhere else. It's not his direct like research, but basically it's not about like getting the 3-hour marathon that's going to make us, happy. It's seeing progress, feeling progress along the way towards the marathon. Because the issue is, he says, is when you get to that 3-hour marathon, you have another problem, which is what's the next goal? So it's like, what now? So it's actually, that kind of post-marathon blues, post-Olympic blues is like a really real thing, postpartum, for example. So how do you diversify the goal? So for example, for me, the goal is, and it's literally today it's changed. So the goal was a sub 3-hour marathon. And then I just see that the demand for marathons, the majors, especially like Boston, has gone through the roof. So the qualifying times are not 3 hours anymore. It's now 2:55, 2:52, 2:51. So
Oh,
my
did they
goal,
increase it again? Do you have what's your
well,
official BQ right now?
it was 3 hours, but um, the demand is huge. It's
Oh,
gone
I
up.
get what you're
So
saying. Because of the rolling, okay, the
yeah,
rolling
so
admission. Okay, I didn't know if it was officially lower. I hear what you're saying. Right. You
yeah,
got to be even faster than 3.
it's predicted. It's predicted to be lower.
Right. Gotcha. Understand.
To be safe as well. I don't want to aim for 3, get 3, and then it's like, yeah, the demand is so high. Now we're making it 2:57, and it's just like, damn, I should have aimed for 2:55. So
So the goal isn't the sub 3. The goal is to BQ. Well, there may be other levels to this. We'll just take it one step. Would you rather a sub 3, or would you rather, okay, would you rather get a sub 3, but not get into Boston because it was hyper competitive? Or would you rather get a 301, but you did get into Boston? That's a good
you
question.
know,
Answer that.
and it's funny because then there's Chicago, which is, I think, a quote unquote nicer marathon to run. The weather, the course itself, there's less history, so it's tough. I'm not sure, but
Which one of those would you prefer? The faster time, but not get in? Or the slightly slower time, still a good time, but you did get in?
I think sub 3. It's really close, but sub 3 as a standalone goal.
I hear you.
2:59:59.
Okay. You told me that your goal just changed. The hallucination that I have is that it was sub 3 and then you made it 2:55 today. Did you do that in your mind today?
So what I mean is that if I aim for 3 hours and I fail or I fall short, I'm going to miss. So my kind of like way to hit the 3 hours, sub 3, is aim for like 2:53, like I'm going to sort of outsmart the goal. Maybe this is not even realistic, but it's like aim for 3 and I miss, and then I miss. Aim for 2:53 and I miss, and I still get sub 3. You go a step beyond the goal. Yeah.
So you're trying to trick yourself. Hey, fine, go ahead. What does that mean though? I'm really curious about this because what does that mean on race day? Does it mean train for a 2:53, or does it mean train the best you can and on race day go out at 2:53, knowing that you're probably going to blow up and at least you'll get sub 3?
Train for a 2:53. So what that means is like, okay, yeah. So breaking it down, instead of trying to get a sub 90-minute half, it's like get a sub 84-minute half, for example. Or instead of getting a sub 40-minute 10K, it's like get a sub 38-minute 10K, and so on down to a 5K, or a mile, or.
Okay.
And those check marks have to be hit before going for the full marathon. I can't just be like, yeah, I got a sub 90 half and I'm just gonna, hope for the best and, head out there on race day. It's like, that is, to me personally, having seen so many people not hit sub 3, that's guaranteed to fail.
Are you open to some feedback on this? I've heard an incongruency here.
Yeah,
okay.
Totally.
Okay. About 10 minutes ago or 20 minutes ago on our call here, you said that you were talking about your weakness and I asked you, what would you need? And you said to have faith in the process. Faith in the process. You told me that's what you need. But your plan is to train for a 2:53 without faith that it's going to work. You actually believe that it's going to fail. It'll just fail beyond the 3-minute mark, the 3-hour mark, so that you'll get the thing you want. So you want to have faith. So you're going to train in a way where you don't have faith that it's going to give you, if you train for a 2:53, you should get a 2:53. But you don't believe it's going to work. There's not faith that it's going to work. There's faith that it's not going to work. But if you shoot big enough, when you fail back, you'll hit the goal you really want. So there's an incongruency there. I hear what you're saying. It's awesome. I'm not like picking on you here. I just am highlighting 2 things that you said. I don't care. 2 things that you said that don't mesh. Is training for a 2:53 thinking it'll probably fail and you'll run a 2:58? Is that faith? I'm not leading you here. Maybe it is, but to you, is that faith?
I think it's definitely less faith than training for 2:59. But where I'm coming from is that I've seen so many examples of people just missing the aim by,
Mhm.
307, the course, all of these factors that come into it. So for example, I can run I can run a 3 hour marathon, right? On pretty much any course. But let's just say the weather's off, the elevation is difficult. I have some life stress. That's going to more than likely I'm not going to run my perfect race. So to give me that kind of, let's just say, wiggle room, that's why I'm setting the goal a little bit further, setting a higher goal than because, for example, Boston, it's like if you can run 2:59 at Boston, you can probably run 2:55 at Chicago, for example.
Maybe. Maybe true, maybe not, but it's just a belief because remember, 2011, first 3 guys under the world record. Because Boston's a net downhill course, and there's the possibility of a tailwind the entire way. Chicago's not a net downhill course. Boston can be fast. Look, maybe for some people, like maybe Chicago's faster, but I'm just saying it's a belief. It's not necessarily true. The proof is in the pudding. 3 guys under the world record in 1 year on Boston.
Yeah, I guess just in my more recent memory, London's faster. Kipton did it faster there. And sure. Yeah, just going by the more recent times. So this is, I guess, where I have to do more research and more reflection and more thought about like the kind of actual.
Well, if you want to run the fastest race possible, it should be pancake flat or downhill. Certainly not uphill. So Chicago's pancake flat, Boston net downhill, but Heartbreak Hill, which isn't that big of a deal, by the way. It's not that big of a hill, but a lot of people. There's a reason why people blow up at Boston. We don't need to go into that here unless you want, but there's a reason. They don't train the downhills in their legs and they go out too fast the first 5 miles downhill, shred their quads, and then they can't milk the last 5 miles. That's the short answer. But you're defining success as failure. I'll fail at the 2:53, but be successful because I ran under 3. It's interesting. The plan is to fail. But I don't think you really think you'd be failing. You'd still feel good. So it means that, is that true? You would still feel good. It's not a failure. If you trained for the 2:53 but ran a 2:58, is that a success?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So if that's true, then the incongruency comes in the training, the mindset in the training, not the racing. And it comes in saying that you're training for a 2:53 because you're not. You're training for the 2:58. Why do we say we're training for the 2:53? So it's not semantics. It sounds like, oh, who cares? Just do the harder training. No, it really matters because like, what do you believe you're going to do? If you don't believe that you can break a 3, you're not going to do it. If Kipchoge didn't believe he could break 2, and the world record at the time was like high 2:01s, it's a way faster. He knew he could do it. There was no plan B. He knew he could do it, so he did it.
It's almost like a lie I'm telling myself. I'm like, I'm trying to break 3, but I'm going to aim for 2:53. And
that's the lie right there. Because you're not really aiming for 2:53.
It's a fear of not breaking 3. I'm like, the first time I'm going for it, I'm going for sub 3, I don't want to experience the pain that everybody. I feel like to me, just, looking at people's attempts at sub 3, it feels like, 90% of people who go out trying to do it first time fail. And I do not want any part of that. I'm happy to fail in all the other little mini milestones along the way. But then when I actually go for this, sub 3, yeah.
The evidence is where you look for it. The evidence is so if you're looking for the people who missed breaking 3, you will find it, and you will find it in abundance because there are more slower runners than there are faster runners. You can also look, what was Kiptum's debut marathon?
Oh,
first
crazy.
Marathon ever.
It's like 2:04 or something.
No, it was fast. He ran the second fastest time ever. He beat Bekele's time. It was the second fastest marathon of all time. It was like high 2:01s or, because the world record was what, 2:01, 39, I think. And he ran
Was
like,
it Valencia?
I don't remember where it was. His debut marathon was, I believe, the second fastest in history. And it might have been the third fastest in history, but debut marathon at age 23. I'm just using that as, now that's like, I'm going extreme here. Okay. That was Kiptum. But the belief of people who go for the sub 3, 90% miss it. What about Kiptum? Okay. Well, he's Kiptum, but there's loads of runners who go for the sub 3 and do it. Loads. Everybody who's under 3, which is all tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, they all went for a sub 3 and they got it. So the evidence is there to support that you're right. There's a metric ton of people who want to break sub 3 and they get close and they miss it. There's a ton. There's also a ton of people who want to break 3 and they do it. And they break it by a lot. They run 250 or 240 or 230 or 220 or 210. There's a lot of debut marathons that are, I mean, especially recently in the last like 5 years, that are, I mean, way under 210. There's like some debut marathons that are like 206, 204. Debut. So the evidence is there to argue both sides. They're both true. So what you're saying is true. I'm not telling you it's not true. It is true. Okay. It's also true that a lot of people decide to do it and do it. It's not exclusively true. It's just true. So which one do you focus on though? If you focus on the people who failed at it, you kind of join that tribe and you kind of expect you're going to fail. Okay. In my book, did you read my book?
Not yet.
It's okay if you didn't. Did you?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. No problem. There's a chapter in here called, Kyle Sucks. It's chapter 4. It's called Kyle Sucks, How Your Mind Can Sabotage Your Race.
Poor Kyle.
And I tell a story in there. Kyle, who's Kyle? I used to do Taekwondo for 15 years earlier in life. I don't do it anymore. And I was at this tournament and this was like, a lot was on the line. I was on a team and we were doing a team competition and it was neck and neck for first place. And there was no award for second place. Either you win or you don't. It was neck and neck. And it came down to me on my sparring. If I won, the team would win. If I didn't, I'd lose and the team would lose. There was a lot on the line. And I made it to, I don't remember if it was the first, second place match or the second, third place match, whatever. I had to win that match and I would have placed. And the person they put me against, his name was Kyle. And this dude, he got eliminated in like his first round. And so he's not eligible to move up the ranks, but somehow they didn't track him. And they're like, oh, we don't have you on our paper here. Let's just put you in here and see how you do. And they put him in. And then him and I are facing off for either first place or second place. I can't remember. And we go to fight each other. And it's like out of a freaking movie, like Karate Kid. It's like, it's tied 2-2 and third point wins. It's literally like the most dramatic thing in my life at the time. Okay. And all my teammates are watching me and they're rooting for me. And I felt the pressure. I have to. There's fear if I don't. I'm like, oh shit. If I don't win this, they're going to be disappointed and he's going to be disappointed. And my mom is there and my dad is there. And oh no. So then I felt like a victim because I'm like, this shouldn't even be real. This kid should have been eliminated. We shouldn't even be doing this stupid fight. And my mind is on, it's unfair. I'm a victim. I'm in fear. And you know what? I knew, I wouldn't have said it, but I knew that I was going to lose that match. Because when you're in those emotions, fear, you know you're going to lose. Apprehension, trying to avoid, trying to push to make something happen, you know you're going to lose it. There's like a part of your spirit, your soul. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? In other areas of life, you just know when you're going to fail at the thing, even though you say you're confident and you do the actions and then you're not surprised when you fail because part of you expects it. A subconscious expects it that you'll fail. And that's driven by fear. If we're in fear as opposed to love, you're gonna feel just way different. You can take the same action, right? I could have fought that kid out of love. This kid, I'm so glad he gets another chance. Too bad he's up against Andrew Muffafuffin Snow because I'm gonna beat his butt. That's okay. I'll take him out for a milkshake after. Let's go, baby. and play around with them and tease them and be like, haha, you're eliminated. You have no idea what, ooh, ooh. Like if I had a playful attitude or a loving attitude or just love towards my team members, it wouldn't have mattered. But I was distraught. I cried. I remember crying. I was, I'll, I'll let myself off the hook because I was like 14 or something like that, or 13 or something. But I was upset. And this kid was so happy. So anyway, that's a story to talk about if you're driven by like wanting to avoid something rather than wanting to include something. This is law of attraction. There's a big difference between people say, who doesn't want more money, right? Why do you want more money? I don't want the IRS knocking at my door. I just want to be able to pay my bills. I just don't want to be poor anymore. Good luck. Not going to work. Law of attraction frame. It's not going to work because what you're saying is, I don't want to be poor anymore. I don't want to look at my bank account and feel negative. I don't want to not have to go on vacation. I don't want to have to work this job anymore because I hate this job. Stupid job. Why can't I just have the money? And most of those people don't ever get the money. But when we turn, it's not about, I don't want this. When it's about, whoop, we turn around. What do I want? So in your running, what do you want? Yes, sub 3, but why do you want sub 3? How are you going to feel when you get it? I'll feel this. I feel like I overcame this. It means this to me. What does it say about where I'm going in life? What does it say about my creator and the purpose of this life? What does it say about what I'm capable of? And you focus on those and you focus on those and you focus on those. And then here's the key, is all of those things that you say, whatever those are for you, you choose to experience them now. Before the gun goes off, before you choose to experience them. So that you become the overcomer and the action taker and the person who's like full of love and full of gratitude. And you're like celebrating it before you even get there. Now, when you get on the starting line, just like as when I was on the starting line with that kid, Kyle, I wasn't in the emotions of being a winner. I was in the emotions of, ugh. Okay. So same thing on the starting line of the race, be in the emotion like Kipchoge or Haile Gebrselassie. You remember him? Gebrselassie, yeah. You remember he's got that big smile and you can see his molars. And the commentator, that guy who commentated for like 20 years on ESPN, he'd be like, and there's Gebrselassie on the starting line. And we see him being playful and giving the handshakes and the smile. He's always full of love and he's always smiling. But you bet when the gun goes off, he's the most fierce competitor. And Gebrselassie is just like shaking it out and waving and laughing. And then the gun goes off and he's boom, world record. And then he goes back to like smiling. Look at this guy. You can't rob this guy of who he is. And he wins. And he got something like 20 something world records. He won the 10,000 meters in 96, in 2000. One of only, I think, 3 humans to ever do that. 4 now, I think. It's because of who he became. And he also had longevity. He set a world record in like 97 or 94, one of those, mid 90s in the 5K. And he was still going, setting world records in the marathon 20 years later, 25 years later. Longevity too. He's not going to have longevity if he doesn't feel he's tapping into who he's becoming, tapping into those emotions, what he wants, not what he doesn't want, what he wants.
So it's like you have your goal, but you got to focus on it and choose. It's almost like actively, almost like on a daily basis, like choose the goal. It's like, because the fear of failure is it could be a driver, but it's almost like a trick. Oh, the fear of failure is pushing me, but it's actually almost pulling. You're almost choosing to fail by focusing on it. Whereas if you choose the goal, the 3-hour goal, I'll start to take actions that will bring me closer to that goal.
You said it exactly right there. You said that when you focus on avoiding the thing you don't want, you focus on it and you become it. That is law of attraction. You, by definition, it's you get what you focus on.
Tough to do.
You don't even have to answer this here, and perhaps you don't even know the answer yet, but like take this and let it brew for a little bit. Is your goal to run under 3 hours, or is your goal to not fail at running under 3 hours? And like, you don't even have to answer that, but You see how they're like polar opposite, even though it's the same?
It's like two paths diverging. Like they're almost
Mhm.
going in like opposite directions, it feels like. That question.
Absolutely opposite direction. That's why when I was talking about it, I like shifted and went the other way. Abraham Hicks talks about this. She says every topic is really two topics: the having of the thing that is wanted and the absence of having the thing that is wanted. It's not the having of the thing that's wanted, and the opposite is not having a different thing that is unwanted, or the opposite of it. No, it's just the absence of having what is wanted. So a polar opposite would be having the sub 3 hour, and the opposite of that isn't having a 5 hour. The opposite of it is not having the 3 hour. It's the exclusion of the thing you want. And so every topic is really two topics. So if you want the sub 3 hour, there's two topics there. There's the wanting of the sub 3 hour, and there's the unwanting of not having the sub 3 hour. It's the same topic, but they're two different ends of one topic. And so if you're a little tiny ant on this pen, and we have sub 3 hour over here, or avoid failing at the sub 3 hour over here, and you're a little tiny ant, you can only look this way or that way. Because we're big humans, we can see both sides. But if you're a little ant on there, you either got to orient this way or orient that way. Whichever one you look at is the one you'll get. So if we try to avoid, you're looking at the pen this way, or that'd be this way. This is avoid. You're looking at the pen this way, you're the ant facing this way, you're looking at avoiding it, and that's what you will have. Flip around and look this way. It's the same topic. Most people don't want health. They want to not have bad health. That's why they abuse their body until something happens, and even then continue to abuse their body. But when do people make meaningful lifestyle changes with their health? It's like when they get obese, when they get diabetes, when they get cancer, when they get, and now, oh, we can't have this, and they want to get rid of it. Never was their goal health. It's just now that they're sick, their goal is not sick. That's different from health. Had their value been health, they never would have got sick. I mean, you never know what's going to happen, but unlikely. It's such a subtle difference. We've been talking about this for a while here. I think it's awesome that we've gone like so long on that topic right there, because it's so subtle, but it is the difference.
Yeah, it's almost like, your aim that is guiding you in so many different ways. And I wish we could keep going and talk about it more, but that is all the time we have, Andrew. And this has been great. Thank you so much.
Woo, there's so much stuff that we could talk about, and that just like, it goes where it goes, but I enjoyed that. Thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed it immensely as well. Is there any final message that you would like to leave listeners with?
Yeah, I'm trying to make it relevant to what we talked about. Be easy on yourself, but know what you want. And don't be easy on yourself when it comes to bridging the gap from where you are to what you want. So let me try to say that even more simply. Clearly define what it is you want in your life, and you can have it. But you have to make a decision that you're going to do it. And there's nothing you can't have. And that's the trick, is know what you want. It should be written down. If your goals aren't written down, they're unlikely to happen. But if they're written down, and they're written down again, and then they're written down again every day, and they get clearer and clearer, and they change from day to day, and it's just like constantly there, and they're written about in the affirmative, like as if you already have it. Not, I want to be a sub 3 hour marathoner. That means that your subconscious is saying, I am not a sub, because you want it, you don't have it. It's, I am a 2:59 marathoner. I easily do this. My fitness is whatever. And just attract that into your life, And the tactics for how to get there, how to structure your training, you'll find them. When you come from a new place of being resourceful and certain and joyful that you're moving towards it, you'll open up. You'll find new teachers. You'll find Ross's podcast. You'll find my Run Elite channel. You'll find something. It'll open up. The universe will open up for you if you know what it is you want and you decide you're going to do it. That's it. The thousands of ways it can happen, leave that up to the fate of the universe. Okay, I'll leave with that.
I love that. That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you. Okay, goodbye. Thank you so much if you're one of our readers who's got the book and left us an awesome review. But if you haven't yet, go ahead and pick up your copy, Run Elite. It's on Amazon right now. It's on Audible right now. Train and think like the greatest runners of all time. If it weren't for you guys, we wouldn't have even made this. So take care, and thank you for making it a success.